This is a quick and easy 7-step tutorial that shows you how to create pivot tables and charts in Excel. So let's get to it. Step 1 is preparing your data. In this example, we have a data set called Coffee 7 Steps that is referenced below so you can follow along with this example. Notice here we have several columns. We have store number, state, manager, month, drinks, food, and total. So this is information from Allen's Coffee House over several states. And we want to use this to create some pivot tables. But before we do, there's some things we want to look at. First of all, to make sure you have a good data set that can be used in pivot tables, take a look at your columns and make sure that all the data in each column is consistent. That is, in total, these are all numbers you would use for calculating. The same in food and drinks. Whereas in month, these are all, in this case, month names. So there's text values actually here. The manager, again, is text values, the names, last names of managers. The state are typical two-letter state names. And then the store number is a number actually from 1 to 80. So once we're convinced that we don't have any bad values in here, then for instance, let's say this value here was 68 was missing and it's a 0, well that's gonna be bad for your results. You need to make sure all of the data is correct and included in your table before proceeding. All right, the first thing we're going to do is click somewhere on the table, go to Insert and Table. And we're going to, so it's going to ask us what are our, the range for the tables. We'll accept what it has. And we're going to name this table up here at the upper left corner, Coffee. So now we're ready to begin creating pivot tables. Okay, step 2. Now step 2 is deciding what we want to show in our report. So here we have our data and we want to take a look, just to take a second to consider what kind of tables we want. Certainly we want to look at the total sales, but how do we want to look at it? By store number, by state, manager, month, etc. Well, first of all, we might want to look at it by state, and then we also might want to look at it by month. So that's the next thing we have to decide is what fields are we going to use to create the table that we want. All right, now we're ready for step 3. Step 3 is to create the pivot table. So I'm going to click on Insert above, then Pivot Table, and from Table Range, select Coffee and New Worksheet. And now I have a blank table over at the left of my screen, and I have the values, the fields over on the right-hand side. Knowing what we want to look at, first of all, we want to look at the total sales. So I'm going to drag total down into values. That's our first step. I want to look at that by state. So I'm going to drag state down into rows. And I also was interested in looking at it by month. So I'm going to drag month into columns. Now we have our first pivot table. This pivot table shows the rows are the states. The columns are the months. And then within each state, we have it broken down by month. So we here see in California, we had sales of 2634, 2743, so forth, with a grand total of 12142. And then if we take all the states together, then we had a grand total of $95,775 for those 3 months. So we've created our first pivot table. What else can we do with this? Well, there's a couple of things we can do with this. First of all, we might want to look at this not as these raw numbers look like this, but maybe as currency. So I'm going to highlight these, right-click, Format Cells, Currency with no decimal places. And now it has dollar signs listed. That looks a little bit better. Other things we could do, we could rename some of the items. So I'm going to change this sum of total to sales. I'm going to get rid of the column label things here. I'm going to change row labels to state, and you can continue on here. And there's many things that you can do to make this table look better. Let me just try one more thing. So I'm going to click on the table, then go over here to Design, and notice here that you can choose from a number of designs that you might want. Let's choose one that sort of looks a little bit like coffee. There's a good one. So now we have we've created a pivot table that shows the information that we're looking for by state, and then month within state, and then totals. So we have created now a pivot table as step number 3. Now let's go to step number 4. Now that we have a table over here, perhaps I want to also have something more visual, and so I want to create a chart. I'm going to go up here to Pivot Table Tools, then Pivot Chart, and notice here it knows what's in the table. It's already going to give us a sample chart. Well, let's just go ahead and choose that one, and we see it's a bar chart. I can make it bigger so I can see what it looks like. And notice here what it gave us. We have the chart that has by states at the bottom, and within each state we have the various months. So that's one way to look at the data. You know, we could get rid of the months, for instance, just drag month out, and now we have sales just by state. So you can pick and choose what you want here. I'm going to put this back so we have a chart that looks like this. I could also change this simply by clicking on it and choosing Change Chart Type and change this to a bar chart. Now I have a different looking chart. So within the charts, we can choose whatever makes our data look like what we want in terms of the presentation we're wanting to make. So that is step number 4. Okay, now we're ready to move on to step 5, and that is we want to create more tables and more charts. You can create as many as you want, but let me show you how to do that. If I go back and click on Sheet 1, that gets me back to my original data. I go to Insert, Pivot Table, just like we did last time, Coffee, New Worksheet, and I'm back to a pivot table. Now this hasn't erased my old one. This is a brand new one. In this one, I'm going to put drinks down here in values, then food, and then total. And in the rows, I'm going to put month. So now I have the table that I had in mind. Once you have envisioned what table that you have in mind, it's pretty easy to create it over here. And then all I have to do is go back in here and I can make some changes to the labels in whatever I want to put there. So I can make it look like I want. I can design it. Again, let's do something. I can highlight these, choose right click, format cells, turn them into currency with no decimal places. So again, I can do all these same things I can do with this one. But let's do something a little bit different. Now I'm going to add total again to the values box there. And notice I get a new column called sum of total. Well, why on earth would I want to do that? It's just a duplicate of the other one. Well, the reason is I'm going to right click on it, choose show values as, and percent of grand total. Now I'm going to change this label up here to percent, just so we don't have any confusion. And now I have the table that I want. Again, I could change some of the more labels if I want to. But I also want a chart. So back in the Pivot Table Analyze ribbon, I'm going to choose Pivot Chart, but this time what I want is a pie chart. So I'm going to choose Pie Chart, and let's see what it did for us. Well, it didn't do exactly what we want because this pie chart has to do with drinks. That's not what we want. So if you end up like this, what I can do is click on this percent. That's what I really want, and say Move to Beginning. So what it did is it moved percent to the beginning of my column, and that's where the pie chart is coming from. So now I have the pie chart I want. Maybe I don't want these labels up here. I'm going to do a right click on them and choose Hide Value Fields. And I can also do the one down here at the bottom, Values, hide this legend here. But I still have my main legend over here to the right, so I want that. So again, I'm just playing with this, changing some things I want to do. In this case, I want to add some label fields. So that added some numbers to each pie slice. I'm going to go in here and take a look at this number, make it larger, let's say 20. I'm going to make it white, so I like that, so it may be a little bit better to read, and maybe even bold. So that's what I want. Let's go back and change it to white. Somehow that didn't work. White, there we go. So now I have it the way I want. Now what about the other fields? Well, let me go in here again, choose it. Now notice here we have a format paintbrush. I'm going to double click on it. Then I can go to each item and click on it and repeat that format. Press escape to get out of the format brush. So now I have not only a new table, but now I have a new chart that I can then put into my report the way I want to. All right, step 6 is simply to make sure that all of your charts and tables are looking like you want them to look like. I'm not going to do everything, but let me just show you some of the things we can do here. First of all, I have this title up here called percent that needs some work. I'm going to change this color to a sort of a coffee kind of color here, and so now and then place it over the top of my pie chart. I can do a number of other things here. If I click on the right hand, it gives me some other ways that I can look at my chart. I'm just going to leave it as is, but just to let you know that there are a variety of things you can do. Another thing that I didn't go into was to prepare your table for how you want to do it is to change these column names. Now I can't change this column name to drinks because it's already a field name, but what I can say is something like drink sales and food sales, and then total sales. So again, I'm going to go in here and just change up everything I have to do with my charts. Go back to the one I created previously. I could make changes in it as well. So now that I have all of my charts ready, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on them. For instance, sales here, just click on the whole pivot chart, do a right click, copy, and now I'm ready for step 7. Okay, step 7 is the wrap up for this tutorial. We've already clicked and selected this particular table, so I did a right click copy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide where I want to put this. I might do it in a PowerPoint slides. In this case, I'm just going to go to a Word document where I already have some of the text in my document already filled out. So here's the quarterly report for Allen's Coffee Shop. Down here somewhere in my sales report, I have a blank space where I'm going to just do a right click. So I'm going to have to do some adjusting here and bring this back up. So now I have my chart here. I can go back to my table. Here's my graph. Do a right click on it, and I want to copy it. So right click, copy, and again go back to Word and then find the spot that I want to put it. See the table here, so do a right click there. I can size it, get it into my report, and so now I can just build my report from the tables and the graphs that I've built within Excel using the pivot chart option. So there you have it, 7 steps to designing your pivot charts by starting with your data, deciding what you want to do with your data, to create some pivot charts, do a little formatting, to create your charts, to create double charts or however many you want, and then to embed them into reports. Let's review what we've learned here. Number 1, set up your data, make sure it's correct. Number 2, decide what tables and charts are needed for your presentation. Number 3, create a pivot table. Number 4, create a pivot chart. Number 5, create more tables and charts. Number 6, make final edits to your tables and charts. And 7, copy and paste your tables and charts into your report. If you follow these 7 steps, you'll become a pivot expert quickly. This is Alan Elliott. If you learned something from this tutorial, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tech tutorial.